when we're complete the interview, when the interview is over, I'll end the call. But just if you both don't mind leaving the window open for a few minutes, just because the video uploads to the server. It's a little annoying thing, but the camera will be off and everything. So yeah, I just wouldn't mind asking, when one of you is talking, would the other mind muting just for kind of sound quality purposes, if it's not too much trouble? Perfect. So would both of you be willing to just state your name and the title that I could use for you?
Okay, so I am speaking, yes.
Sorry.
I think I am speaking because I saw that her video is okay. So my name is Maryam, my family name is Azimzadehirani, and I am freelance journalist. And also I'm working for the Women Life Freedom as a volunteer, and I'm doing most of the time the media relations and some of issues like this.
Thank you.
And I'm Darya Almasi, and I'm a PhD student of sociology at Concordia.
Thank you so much, both of you. Great. So could you, both or either one of you, could you just share a little bit about the protests that you had previously organized and just kind of the outcome so far?
Okay. So
Maryam, you can start, or do you want me to start?
if you want, you can both share. I don't know. If you want, you can start, and then I can add. Yep.
So the protests here in Montreal, it started right after the protests in Iran, as a support and as a, to amplify the voices in Iran. So it was really synced and in coordination with what was happening in our country. So, and it was changing every week. So we had rallies and protests. We had also art performances based on what was happening, the news of the day in Iran. So far, we have had every Saturday, we have had big protests and rallies. The last one had 20,000 people in Montreal, and also some other art performances.
Thank you. Perfect. Maryam, is there anything you'd like to add?
I want just to add that all of these protests that we did are, alongside the protests that all the Iranian people in all over the world, now they are presenting in the different demonstrations, and some of these demonstrations were internationally. Very international. For example, around more than 154 cities in the world where they participated in these demonstrations. So I want just to say that all the Iranians who are now outside of Iran are really trying to be the echo of the voice of the people that they are in Iran, and they are in the streets, and they're fighting for their rights.
Thank you so much. Can you tell me why it's so important that people here in Montreal, but also outside of Iran, that they protest to promote change in the country and hold the Iranian regime accountable?
Because I think this time it would be a matter of life and death. It would not be a matter of different opinions, or it's not a matter of different political parties. Reform won't work, and people throughout these 43 years, they have put the puzzle pieces together, and they've realized that there is no way out except for regime change. And this has led to all the Iranian communities outside of Iran to stand with the Iranians inside the country, because we all have lived it. We're all are from this society. We have all experienced the same discrimination. When someone in Iran is being killed and tortured and raped and kidnapped, we all feel it because we are the lucky ones who managed to get out, and with every single cell of our existence, we feel the same pain. That's why the protests across the world will not stop, and it will continue um, until the freedom of Iran, until the people of Iran are also in the streets fighting.
Yeah. And I can just add that this is the first time after the Islamic Revolution that we see that different people from the different attitudes and different political points of view, from different religions, and maybe from different parts of Iran and from parts of the world, the Iranian from all parts of the world, now they are in solidarity with the Iranian people. And this is really something that is unique, if I want to say my personal comments about, and not me, most of Iranians think like me, that this is the unique things that happened for the Iranian community inside and outside of Iran, that they, for the first time, they are in solidarity with an idea that Darya described before.
Thank you both so much. Can you, I guess, explain a little bit about how this is a feminist revolution?
It is feminist revolution because it started with women. I mean, it starts from Mahsa Amini's death, brutal death that happened, unfortunately. And after that, lots of women came into the streets, and they fought and they shout for their rights, the rights that they had been ignored for more years, and they couldn't do anything. Just they supported that situation. So yes, it starts with the women, because women, unfortunately, are most ignored part of the Iranian community during these past years, especially after Islamic Revolution. And I want just to say, I think Darya can explain more, that this is not something that limits to the feminist revolution. It starts with the name of woman, Mahsa Amini, but it continues.
It did start with the murder of Mahsa Amini in the police hand while in custody. And it has happened before as well, the murdering of women, their torture, their kidnapping based on what the government deems as improper head covering. This time, Mahsa was like the very last drop that kind of filled the tolerance and the patience of the whole nation. And the way that she was brutally murdered spiked this fire, ignited it in people, thinking that this could be us. People related to her because this could easily be any one of them, their sisters, their mothers, their daughters, their wives, because she has not done anything wrong, and she was not a political person. She was not engaged in any parties. She was just visiting the capital of Iran with her family. And this could be easily any one of the Iranian population. That's why people related with her. It did start as a feminist revolution, feminist uprising, but it quickly escalated to the whole nation. And people now do not want anything less than the regime change. It's not a matter of reform. It's not a matter of changing the government. It's not a matter of ethnic groups' will for independency. It's not any of these issues. It's not fighting against sanctions. It is merely fighting for women, life, and freedom. And when we say women, it means the big umbrella of the whole vulnerable minorities in Iran, ethnic groups, religious minorities, and women as the bigger population of those who are being discriminated through the past 43 years.
Thank you so much. I guess, is there anything that Western societies such as Montreal can learn from this movement?
You mean learning? I think, especially Quebec community, before had the same experience while the Catholic Église and Catholic churches had the power in Quebec, and the religion was with this politics, and they mixed together. So at the time, the religion was, the power. The religion took the power, and the Quebecers tried their best to separate this from the politics. So I think this is something that is familiar with the Quebec and with Canadian society, because before it was religious more. And the thing I can see here, that if I want to say Quebec can, especially Quebec, can learn from this movement, is that please give the give the women to choose what they want. This is something that maybe they want to put hijab here and they can't, and they don't want to put hijab in Iran and they can't. For me, I think this is something that you limit just women because they are women. Limiting women is not acceptable. They are like other parts of the community, and they want to be themselves. They want to live like they want. So I can say this is the lesson that we can learn from the movement in Iran, that is just give the women their rights.
Exactly, that's true. It is all about women's agency. It's about their right to choose their own lifestyle. It's not against religion. It's not against any form of religious expression. It is only against the suppressive regime that takes away the right from people to choose how to be, what to wear, and what to believe.
Thank you for clarifying. So I did want to talk a little bit about this, if both of you are willing. I know this is a bit more, how do I say this, like more prevalent in the States, but I have been noticing with the coverage on Iran, some mainstream media outlets, how do I say this? Like there is a bit of like an Islamophobic approach, just in terms of like, an anti-hijab approach. And I have been kind of hearing in some circles around me of people discussing this, how Western media is a bit more willing to pick this up and break this story down, because some parts of it can kind of fall in line with the Western point of view, and not at all to devalue the movement. Obviously, it is not just focused on the hijab, but I did just kind of want to ask about this. And do you think that there's something to be said about Western media outlets maybe focusing on the hijab when it is the symbol? If you're willing to discuss.
I think
it takes. Yeah,
it's okay.
Go ahead, Mary.
Go. Let's move on. Go.
I wanted to say that the way that the Western media is approaching this revolution, by limiting it to, or by kind of deviating it from what it is really about, it's a betrayal to all the lives that are now being taken away in Iran. It's a betrayal of telling the real story and letting the world know about the real angle, the real narrative. It's changing the narrative completely. Because, like I said, when it's a matter of life and death, you have to take a side. You have to be clear of which side you are following. Are you up for living, or are you supporting death and torture? And Yeah, the same thing applies when Western media deviates it to uh, economic uprising or fighting against sanctions or Kurdish independency. These are the same approaches with the same destructive manner to take away the power of the real story.
Yep.
And one other thing that I wanted to add is that there are religious people in the protests in Iran too. There are women with hijab in the streets. We've seen footages and videos, and um, we've heard their voice that because it is about women's agency, because it is about the right to choose, it immediately falsifies any other way of narrating it.
Yeah. So I think like Darya told totally the exact definition of what Islamophobia that the Western media try to, I mean, give this picture to the movement that is not about the Islamophobia. This is not something about that the people that they are in the streets are against the religious people, against the Islamic people. This is not true. This is something that the Iranian government tried to make for also for the religious people, that these people, that these women that they are in the streets, they want just to be, I mean, they want just to be without hijab because they want something that they want just to, for example, say to insult you or doing something against your values. But it is not like this. It is something that maybe if it is acceptable for you as a Canadian, that someone said, okay, you want to put on a hijab because you want to be against me, is it acceptable for you? Can you find any relationship between the putting hijab, wearing hijab because of your own choice and saying something against you? No, because it is not my business, you know, it's not my business. The way that I want to put on or wearing hijab or not wearing hijab is my choice and my option. It's not yours. And until that I can, I mean, I am a good citizen, I am a good person for my society, it is not important the way that I'm wearing. So it is very weird when this Western media tries to just limit this movement to the Islamophobia, because it's not about phobia. It's not phobia, you know? And as I said, this is something that the Iranian government tried to impose. To impose that, yes, when these women are in the streets, they want just to ruin all the values of the society, all the values of the traditional society of Iran. And it is not true, because before revolution, we could see that the women with hijab and without hijab were together. For example, my grandmother was a very traditional woman with hijab all of her life. And my mom, before revolution, did not wear a hijab. So it is something that my grandmother could accept because that it was normal in the society. But when you want to try to picture something as an abnormal against other people, so you want to manipulate the movement of the people, and it is not acceptable. I think if you are logic, you can understand what I explained. It's very clear.
That's right. I think there's a huge gap and difference between Islamophobia and secularism. Islamophobia, the like Maryam said, the fear and the fight against Islam per se. On the other hand, secularism, the will to have a separate system for governing the society, for education, for laws in society, and religion. You know, like people want secularism, people want the total separation of religion just as a personal choice, and the way that the government and the country is being ruled. So these two, there is no common ground between the two. There is no atom of one in the other. So that's why it's really a false comparison.
Thank you both. I guess, yeah, I mean, how do I word this? I know that the focus on what we're discussing here is on Iran, but do you think that maybe as the movement continues and, you know, hopefully people will reflect what's going on in their own society, do you hope that one day we can kind of have like a, I don't mean to sound too dreamy when I say this, but kind of like a cross-continental, like global revolution of just kind of making changes in all our societies, you know, with recognition that what's going on in Iran is much more like of a life or death situation, but also relating that similar things are happening in other countries such as India.
I'm sure that it happens. I mean, because it's a revolution that you said, that is described, this is a revolution. And now I see in the Middle East, I mean, in the countries that they are very close to Iran and they have these limitations for women, like Afghanistan, like Turkey, and like some Arabic countries, they really supported this movement because they can see their picture in this mirror. I mean, this is like a mirror that they can see themselves in it. And I'm sure that this movement really changed that area. I mean, I'm sure 100% that it changed the countries that are close, like Afghanistan, because we can see that the women in Afghanistan are in the same situation. And they look to Iran. They look to the women that they are in Iran. And I'm not sure about the Western countries, because West is something different a little bit, the situation most of the time. Here, I mean, culture and maybe, especially in Canada, because it's a multicultural country, it's a little bit different. I'm not sure about it, but I think this movement really changed the picture, at least the picture of the Iranian woman for you as Canadians. Because before, the Iranian women were ignored all the time. No one could understand very well what really happens to them in Iran, and now all the world could see that. I can say like this about it, about your question.
Yeah, I think it's the time that all the Iranian people, Iranian women, have spoken for themselves, as opposed to before that they have been put in predefined categories and discrimination. And, you know, people have these categories in their minds and they put you in one of them immediately in whichever category that suits them best and is more convenient. But now this revolution has given them the chance to speak for themselves and demand and show the world what they really are and what they really want. And about what you said before, Savannah, I don't think it's naive to think, I don't think it's dreamy to think that this revolution would change the whole world in some way, because if we believe that everything is interconnected and with all the advancement in technology that people could reach and people could see and people could hear each other in any given moment, I believe that it would be like a very beautiful butterfly effect. It would be one step toward world peace if we have Iran free.
Yes, I think so.
Thank you both so much. I really appreciate it. I just want to lastly ask, is there anything that you would like to see, you know, any type of government here in Canada, whether municipal, provincial, but I guess most likely federal, do to kind of apply pressure on the Iranian government and either provide some form of aid or demand for change further in the country?
بگو دریا، فکر کنم که من چی میخوام. I can't hear you. Mute. Mute. She's mute.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, first of all, it would be, you know, it's really vivid for us, and we are really appreciative of all the supports that we have received so far. In our last protest, that was 20,000 people in Montreal, we were seeing many non-Iranian faces and their support. And it's ever expanding, and it's becoming more and more. So that actually is really heartwarming. We also have received and seen support from the governors with the applied sanctions that people demanded. So that also is something to be thankful, and we need to see that being applied in practice, because so far, with the statements, we know that the governors have shown support, but to see that in action and to see the effects of it on people, that's a different story that we would really like to see.
Yep, I think Darya told totally completely what I wanted to say, but I want just to say that really Canada changed the way that they had before, and now they have. So I can see this change, and I hope that this change will be continued. And we saw that Prime Minister Mr. Trudeau, he was with the Iranian protesters in Toronto, and it was the first time that he was between them, and he said the words that the words were very strong, and I hope that these little change, that now this is like a vogue. It started with a very, very small steps, but now it's a big vogue, and I hope that this vogue is going to be continued. And I pray for Iranian people, especially in these days. They are under the pressure, especially in the universities. You can see that they steal the student university from the dormitories, and they are going to shoot them, and they shoot the people, the demonstrators in these universities, and it is horrible. When I see these pictures, I can't believe that this is my country. In the universities that in the university that I studied, I saw that they shoot their students, and I can't believe it. This is very brutal, and I pray for Iranian community inside Iran, and hope that we can see the freedom of Iran soon.
Thank you both so much. I understand this is a very difficult topic to talk about, so I really appreciate your time and openness with me. Are there any last words you want to share, or anything that you'd like for me to consider when continuing to put this story together?
I think I said just praying for my country, but I hope that this movement, as you said, is not going to be limited just to the name of women, because now all the members of that society are engaged in this situation, and they all of them are in solidarity with each other, just to save their identity, their country, their climate, their environment, everything, the rivers, the mountains, and everything that you can imagine. So I pray for them, and I hope that we're going to see the good days soon. Darya, if you want to add something. You don't want to?
I just want to thank you for your time and your interest in this topic, and to helping us clarify on things that could have been easily mismanaged. And thank you for that.
Yeah.
Thank you both so much.